The uncomfortable truth about female attraction. Welcome to Relationship Psychology, the channel that breaks down the raw psychology of relationships without sugarcoating. Here's the brutal reality most men never fully accept. Women don't chase the nicest guys, the most available ones, or the most loving ones. They chase the men who don't seem to care. Not because they enjoy pain, but because that indifference triggers something ancient deep in the female psyche, the craving for uncertainty. When a man truly doesn't care, it doesn't mean he's heartless. It means he's centered. His emotions don't hinge on her reactions, and his attention isn't for sale. That quiet, effortless emotional independence is exactly what pulls her in. For feminine energy, emotion equals movement. The man who refuses to move toward her becomes the one she can't help but move toward. Women live in a constant flood of validation, compliments, attention, likes, messages, endless pursuit. Every guy is chasing, every guy is available, every guy is proving his worth non-stop. So when one man stands out by doing absolutely nothing, his silence becomes thunder. It's not rejection, it's his energy refusing to orbit hers. That shift rattles her ego and awakens her instincts. The more she senses he doesn't need her approval, the more valuable her approval becomes to her. And that's when the real chase begins. Not for the man himself, but for the high of finally winning his attention. Female desire isn't born from comfort, it's born from challenge. The harder she has to work for your emotional presence, the deeper she invests to secure it. That's why the guy who doesn't care isn't actually careless. He's calm, he's independent. And that sovereignty redefines his worth entirely. He doesn't chase desire, he becomes scarce. In a world drowning in noise, scarcity is irresistible. Here's the sharp irony. The men who chase lose power because they kill the mystery, while the men who pull back gain massive attraction because they create it naturally. This isn't manipulation, it's nature at its rawest. Feminine energy is drawn to masculine energy that feels whole without her, because only then can she feel truly alive in his presence. So if you've ever wondered why women end up pursuing the guys who act like they don't care, the answer isn't emotional cruelty. It's pure emotional contrast. They crave being pulled towards something steady, silent, unshakable. Deep down, the man who never begs for her attention becomes the one whose attention means everything. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below saying, "I'm subscribed." Let's keep going. To understand why women chase men who seem indifferent, you first have to grasp how the female mind ties emotion to value. In feminine psychology, feeling deeply equals depth. Anything that stirs intense emotion, joy, mystery, uncertainty, becomes significant. The man who doesn't care creates the strongest emotion of all: confusion. Most guys hand over clarity way too fast. They declare interest instantly, text nonstop, validate constantly. By doing so, they suffocate the emotional contrast attraction needs to breathe. But the man who doesn't chase, who stays calm, detached, quietly focused on his own life, introduces real uncertainty. Uncertainty is the seed of emotional intensity. It makes her wonder, replay, analyze, obsess. It awakens the part of her that burns to win clarity. When she feels a man isn't orbiting her, her ego gets challenged, not rejected, but decentered. She's no longer the center. She no longer controls the frame. And that flip triggers pursuit, not as a strategy, but as instinct. Feminine energy is magnetized to masculine energy that cannot be shaken. The energy she can't move is paradoxically the energy that makes her feel safest, and the one that attracts her most fiercely. That's why detachment is so powerful. It doesn't push her away. It tests her. It makes her question whether she truly mattered or was just another chapter. The more she questions, the more her emotional investment skyrockets. The feminine doesn't chase affection, it chases certainty. The moment you stop handing it to her on a platter, her emotions start chasing her. But here's the harshest truth. She doesn't actually want a man who doesn't care at all. She wants a man whose energy feels complete, whose presence doesn't define him. That kind of man radiates a different vibration, grounded, deliberate, unhurried. He moves through the world like he already has everything he needs inside him. That calm, that restraint, that inner stillness becomes magnetic. Women don't chase detachment because they love rejection. They chase it because they respect self-mastery. The man who doesn't react to her tests, her distance, or her moods silently communicates one powerful truth. I'm not here for your validation. I'm here for alignment. That truth hits deeper than any compliment ever could. In the end, she isn't drawn to your indifference. She's drawn to your discipline, your refusal to be emotionally available to everyone, your ability to stay rock solid in a world obsessed with attention. That's what makes her chase. Not the absence of care, but the presence of control. Deep in her core, she knows a man who can master his own emotions can handle hers. The irony of modern attraction is crystal clear. The men women say they want rarely trigger their deepest emotions. They claim they want kind, attentive, emotionally open guys. But when they actually meet one, the guy who texts first, checks in, listens, she starts feeling less. Why? Because he's predictable, safe, always there. And availability doesn't create emotion, it creates certainty. Yet the female mind doesn't light up from certainty, it lights up from feeling. The emotionally unavailable man awakens her feelings not because he's cruel, but because his energy carries something most men have lost. Mystery. He doesn't reveal everything. He doesn't reply instantly. He doesn't orbit her. He exists in his own world, and she feels privileged just to circle it. That distance creates stark contrast, and contrast, not comfort, is what makes emotion addictive. The feminine doesn't chase love. It chases raw feeling, the unknown, the unpredictable, the challenge. When she can't easily access a man's energy, her curiosity turns into fixation. She turns every silence into hidden meaning, every delay into a test. The more she tries to decode him, the more emotionally attached she becomes, not from connection, but from contrast alone. The emotionally unavailable man triggers a primal response. You can't control me. And control is the real currency of validation. When she can't control him or predict him, she can't relax. And when she can't relax, she feels alive. That emotional friction is what her brain often mistakes for genuine attraction. Yet the naked truth remains. She doesn't truly want a man who withholds all affection. She wants a man who doesn't need to pour it out constantly. Because a man who is selective with his attention makes it priceless. He isn't emotionally absent. He is emotionally sovereign. His world doesn't shrink to fit hers, and that independence makes his presence sacred. It's not his distance she loves. It's his focus she respects. That's why Stoic men are magnetic. Their energy whispers, I care, but their stillness screams depth and value. In an era flooded with oversharing, silence has become the ultimate luxury. When she encounters a man who doesn't chase, doesn't overshare, doesn't overreact, she doesn't see emptiness. She feels authority, and that's why she pursues. Not because he's emotionally unavailable, but because he's emotionally untouchable. She isn't addicted to him, she's addicted to what he makes her feel, like she has something rare to win. Indifference is widely misunderstood. Many men think it means acting cold, pretending not to care, or playing games. But the real indifference that captivates doesn't come from performance. It comes from peace. It isn't the absence of emotion. It's total mastery over it. It happens when you stop trying to control how others perceive you, when you no longer need her response to feel worthy. That calm, rooted, contained energy becomes irresistibly attractive. Women don't crave constant attention. They crave energetic contrast. They want to feel that your focus is rare, that your presence isn't something they can demand. And indifference delivers exactly that. It separates you from the noise. It quietly declares, I'm here because I choose to be, not because I need to be. That kind of detachment carries an aura. It doesn't shout confidence, it radiates it. The man who doesn't care whether she stays or leaves isn't neglectful, he's whole. He doesn't seek approval because his inner peace already fills the space approval once occupied. That inner fullness makes his energy magnetic. In feminine psychology, indifference is powerful because it creates uncertainty, not the hurtful kind, but the magnetic kind. She can sense your attraction, but she can't own it. That lack of control over your emotions draws her in. It makes her wonder, what is he thinking? Why is he so calm? Her mind hunts for answers her ego can't supply. And in that delicious tension, desire builds. That's the secret of Stoic energy. You attract not by chasing, but by centering. The more you lean into calm indifference, the more their emotions start orbiting yours. Women aren't drawn to men who desperately want them. They're drawn to men who don't need them. And that thin line is what separates the forgettable from the unforgettable. Indifference communicates one razor-sharp truth. I value myself more than your approval. That statement, spoken or silent, forces respect. At its core, feminine energy seeks masculine leadership not through brute force, but through unwavering direction. When your direction holds steady, even when she pulls away or tests you, she grasps something she can't ignore. You cannot be emotionally moved by her storms. That's when attraction turns into reverence. She stops trying to control you and starts trying to understand you. Your silence becomes mystery. Your calm becomes her contrast. Your emotional detachment becomes the one thing she can't find anywhere else. The truth is simple. Men who chase get attention. Men who don't care get devotion. When a man controls his emotions, a woman experiences something rare: genuine stability. At first, that stability doesn't soothe her. It unsettles her. She's used to men who react quickly, raise their voice, over-explain, compete for attention, or lose balance under emotional pressure. But when a man stays calm, eyes soft but energy firm, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels safe. This isn't domination, it's direction. Your emotional control becomes the silent frame that lets her emotions exist without destroying everything. It gives her room to feel, express, and test without ever breaking the structure your masculine presence provides. That's why emotional control is so rare and so powerful. It doesn't suppress her emotions, it contains them. And for the feminine, containment equals trust. When you remain grounded while she's emotional, her body reads that calm as authentic leadership. Her nervous system relaxes, her defenses drop. For the first time, she doesn't have to carry the emotional weight of the connection. She can finally release it. That's what creates real attachment. Not words, not promises, but energetic safety. The truth is, women don't fall for the man who understands their emotions. They fall for the man who doesn't get lost in his own. They feel secure when they realize your peace doesn't depend on their mood, because that proves your strength is real. And every woman, whether she admits it or not, unconsciously searches for the man who can feel everything yet remain unmoved. That's why your emotional control makes her chase you. Your restraint creates electric polarity. She senses the depth of what you feel, but she can't fully access it. That disciplined distance makes her want to earn your full attention. Women don't trust words, they trust consistency. And nothing screams consistency louder than a man who refuses to be thrown off balance. When she yells, tests, or withdraws, and you stay calm, you show her something no one else can. Peace is stronger than passion. Silence is stronger than reaction. And control isn't lack of feeling. It's mastery of it. Most men confuse emotional control with coldness. Wrong. Controlling your emotions means feeling everything and expressing only what's necessary. You understand the storm without becoming it. That energy fills exactly what she's been missing: a man who leads through calm. Her response unfolds like this: confusion first, curiosity next, devotion finally. When a man masters his emotions, he gives her soul what it craves most: the freedom to trust his calm more than her own chaos. There comes a turning point every man eventually reaches, the moment he's done over-explaining, over-giving, over-proving. It's not bitterness or revenge, it's realization. He sees that caring too much in the wrong direction drains his strength. The instant he truly stops seeking external approval, he becomes rare, unavailable in a world addicted to validation. At that point, indifference stops being rebellion and becomes power. Caring doesn't make you weak. Caring without boundaries does. Because when your attention springs from fear, from the need to be chosen or seen, you surrender your peace bit by bit. Masculine strength fades not from failure, but from attachment. Calm, rooted, silent detachment is the correction. When you stop caring about her reaction, you reclaim your energy. When you stop explaining, you reclaim your direction. When you stop chasing understanding, you reclaim your authority. That's why women are drawn to men who seem not to care. Those men embody what they secretly desire: freedom from emotional dependency. Your indifference doesn't offend her, it intrigues her because she senses your emotions now serve you, not her validation. Not caring isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's choosing self-respect over approval. That choice projects a strength she can neither manipulate nor mirror. It's the calm of a man who's walked through emotional chaos and emerged wiser, denser. Every woman has tested men looking for exactly that strength. Most fail by reacting, but the man who shrugs, smiles, and stays unmoved leaves an indelible mark, because he's no longer trying to win her. He's already won himself. And that kind of man brands the feminine forever. When you don't care whether she stays or leaves, you become free. And freedom is magnetic because it's what every human craves but few master. The man who needs no one to validate him stands taller, speaks slower, moves with purpose. His mere presence declares, "I am enough." That truth doesn't just drown out the noise, it shifts the energy around him. Yes, indifference becomes the ultimate power move. Not because it controls others, but because it liberates you. It shatters patterns of emotional dependency and rewrites the rules of value. She expected to control you through your attention. You took control through your calm. And once a woman feels that kind of energy, the strength of a man who never chases becomes unexplainable and unbreakable. She stops testing and starts respecting. At first glance, it sounds contradictory. How can a woman feel safe with a man who doesn't need her? Yet that's the quiet truth buried in feminine psychology. A woman feels safest when she senses your emotional balance doesn't rest on her. When you need zero validation from her, she receives something few men give: freedom. Freedom from pressure, from performance, from being the source of your happiness. Because the man who needs nothing creates space for everything. Most men enter relationships in prove mode. They overgive, overtext, overexplain, hoping effort will buy love. But that energy doesn't create safety, it creates tension. She feels the weight of his need behind every compliment, the fear behind every gesture. That fear turns affection into obligation. But when a man is whole, when his happiness, purpose, and peace are rooted inside him, his energy feels light. He isn't trying to impress. He doesn't demand constant reassurance. He's simply present. And that presence melts her because she realizes, this man doesn't want to own me. He just wants to share space with me. That's why women are drawn to emotionally balanced men. They don't have to protect them or fix them. They can finally relax. And in that relaxation, authentic feminine energy awakens. Natural laughter, spontaneous affection, emotions flowing freely. Because she no longer has to manage your feelings, she can finally release hers. The man who doesn't need her gives every woman what she secretly craves: security through pure stability. Not domination, not rigid control, but deep immobility. His energy says, "You can come and go. My peace remains." That unshakable calm communicates what words never could. He is his own anchor. That's the kind of energy a woman trusts. Trust doesn't come from promises. It comes from consistency. The man who doesn't need her attention won't collapse when she withdraws it, won't panic when she tests him, won't chase when she pulls away. He simply observes, breathes, holds position. And in that silence, she feels more than attraction, deep respect. She sees he isn't trying to complete her. He's inspiring her to become complete herself. Because true security isn't protection. It's shared peace. The man who doesn't need her gives her exactly that: the freedom to love without fear and the space to stay without pressure. He doesn't make her feel desired. He makes her feel trusted. And that's where real connection begins. In the end, she didn't fall for your looks, your charm, your words, or your promises. She fell for your peace. In a world full of noise, men fighting for attention and constantly proving their worth, you were silent, unshakable, fully present. And that presence stood out. It wasn't passive peace. It was peace born of mastery. You weren't trying to impress her or convince her. You simply were. And that effortless being became the most magnetic thing in the room. Because peace is rare, and what's rare, the feminine craves. When you stopped needing her to love you, validate you, choose you, she started feeling an inexplicable pull toward your calm. Your peace did what no words could. It stabilized her chaos. Your indifference wasn't rejection. It was an elegant invitation to rise to your level of emotional discipline, to feel safe in your silence, to find meaning in your absence. That's why women chase men who don't seem to care. They don't want truly careless men. They want centered men, men who can feel deeply yet remain anchored, men whose attention isn't a reflex but a reward. Your peace taught her what every woman eventually learns: excitement fades, but energy endures. Passion burns out, but presence anchors. Love isn't found in words but in balance. You showed her what no one else had: that peace is the highest form of power, and the man who masters his emotions doesn't lose connection. He defines it. He doesn't chase what flees. He attracts what aligns. She'll remember you not for your messages, your tone, or your smile. She'll remember your silence, the way it asked for nothing, the way it forced her to question everything. Because true peace is unforgettable. Once a woman feels it, once she experiences the tranquility of a man unmoved by drama, need, or ego, that vibration stays etched in her. She may meet louder men, richer men, but she'll never meet another whose calm felt like home. And that's the truth behind her chase. She wasn't pursuing you, she was pursuing the feeling she lost when you withdrew. The peace she once took for granted has become the silence that still echoes in her mind. Because in the end, you never had to prove you were special. Your peace already did.